Do you want to know what's really going on between you and this person from your past? If you do, maybe stay with me and see what my cards have to say. These messages may be for you. Hello and welcome to You and Your Ex, your weekly love reading with me, Cesmina. In this reading, we're going to take a look at the dynamic between you and someone you've already shared a romantic connection with. So, if you're new here, the first six cards look at you and your ex individually, how each of you are feeling, what you're showing each other, and what may be happening beneath the surface, what you might be hiding from each other. Then the next cards look at what's changing between you two and where this connection may be heading from here. As always, this is a collective reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest. Let's get into it. So, we're going to start with where your person currently stands in this connection. This card looks at how they're feeling about you and the relationship right now. You have the Hermit. Okay, so it doesn't look like they're reaching out to you right now. It feels to me like you're in no contact right now, or at least you're not speaking directly to each other. So, the first thing that's coming to me is that your ex isn't really one to openly talk about their feelings. I'm getting avoidant energy here. I don't think they're very social right now either, or maybe that's just what they're like as a person. Here's what I'm picturing right now. Your ex in bed, okay, they're scrolling on their phone and you come up on their feed. I feel like this happens often. So maybe you two were very active on social media when you were together, or you still follow each other. It's like you're in each other's algorithms. But yeah, I'm seeing you come up on their feed quite often right now. So I I do feel like when you pop up on their screen, they do stop scrolling. They do look at the post for a while and reminisce on your relationship. I feel like they're quite good at, yeah, they're very good at bottling up their emotions. Um, I think they, I think they sort of save the emotions about you until they're in bed alone and scrolling. I also think they try not to think about you because it distracts them or it derails them from what they have to get done each day. But yeah, the main thing that's coming through here is you coming up on their feed because you've interacted with each other or followed each other in the past, and you're in each other's algorithms. And I feel like because of that, once they're looking at a photo of you, or once they see a message or something like that from you, I think they go down a rabbit hole and go to, like, they go through your messages or your chats and have a scroll through those as well, while thinking about your relationship, what went wrong there, what was good about the relationship, things you used to do or say to each other. So this feels to me like it's not like stalking. It's like once you come up on their feed, once you're in their mind, they can't help but fall down that rabbit hole. And it's like they're looking back on the relationship and trying to figure out where it went wrong and where it could have gone right. But yeah, their thoughts feel very sort of jumbled to me and very emotional right now. So yeah, I am getting that you're in no contact right now, um, or not having, I don't think you're having like actual face to face contact at least, or like maybe they're messaging you and you're not messaging them back. Um, but even if that's the case, even if they have stopped talking to you, it doesn't mean that they've stopped thinking about you. I think you're still very much on their mind. Let's go to you now and see what's going on there. see where you currently stand in this connection. So, this card looks at your emotional energy right now, how you're feeling about them, and where you are mentally and emotionally. You guys have the Queen of Swords. Okay, so I feel like you're mirroring each other here slightly with trying to get on with your day and not think about each other. I think you're just much more determined. So I think when you wake up in the morning, maybe you do think of your ex, you do think of this person, but you don't sit there and cry about it. You do get yourself up and you get up, you get into the shower, you go to the gym or work or whatever. Like the thought is there, but it's not, you aren't letting it get to you. You aren't letting it derail you or impact your day. So I think on the outside, you look absolutely fine. I think that's because you're so mentally disciplined with yourself. You're like, no, I'm not thinking about them. I've got to get on with my day. I've got to get on with my life. I've got to move on. So I do think you're being very matter of fact about this. You're not emotional. I think you're okay if someone brings them up in a conversation. It doesn't bother you. You can talk about them, or, you know, at least it looks that way. I don't think you want to talk about your ex really, not for a long time at least. It's like it's very brief. If anybody asks you, like, if you're still together, you're like, no, we broke up, and it's sort of like end of discussion. Um, I I do feel like that's because you're so mentally disciplined. It's not because you don't care. I think you've thought about this breakup a lot. I think you've thought about it so much that it's just gotten to a point where you don't feel like there's anything else that you can think about it. You don't think there's anything that can be gained by dwelling on it any longer, except upsetting yourself. It's like, yeah, you're protecting yourself right now by being mentally disciplined. So you get up and you think of your ex for a minute, but you don't look them up on social media. You get up, you get in the shower, and you get on with your day, because you don't think you'll gain anything from thinking about them or crying about them anymore. Okay, let's keep going and get another card for your ex now. So let's see what this person is showing you right now. This card looks at their behavior and their actions towards you, the energy they're expressing on the surface. You have the Tower. Whoa, okay. So I think that you can actually see where they've been on your socials. Like they're not being very incognito about it. At least not all the time. So I think your ex is coming across, the word I'm hearing is reactive. It's like they're easily set off at the moment. Because I'm getting sudden comments on your socials or sudden messages in the middle of the night. Um, I've got a very specific message coming through here. I'm seeing, on WhatsApp, you can send messages and then delete them. It's like in the middle of the night, you're trying to sleep, your phone's over there vibrating, but you don't look at it. It's pinging like crazy, but when you go to check the messages later on or in the morning, the messages have been deleted. Very specific message there, but yeah, this to me is like, it's like an emotional spike. I think this comes from them being avoidant or them repressing emotions. And it's like they're having these moments where they lose control. They lose their self control completely for a minute. They react, they message you, and then they get their self control back, and then they delete those messages if they can. It doesn't have to be messages. I'm also getting posts that are like clearly directed at you or about the relationship. And I feel like these posts or these messages, they're very hard to follow or hard to judge. You know, you can't tell if they're sort of sad or they're angry. It's like, yeah, it's not clear because I can actually see you looking at your phone, looking at these messages and being like, what are they doing? You know, what are they talking about? What does that mean? What does this mean? I think if you're if you and your person are still face to face, they're very controlled, like they keep it together then. But on social media, that's where their emotions are going. That's where their emotions are sort of coming out. And I think they're not at all controlled. I think let's get a bit more information. Let's see about you now before I say anything else. So this is what you're showing your ex right now. So this card looks at the energy you're expressing towards them, what they can see from you in this connection. You have the sun. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here now. So you're trying to be strong right now. You're trying to move on. You're trying to get up, go about your day, look after yourself, etc. And you're trying not to think about your ex while you're doing these things. And with this Queen of Swords energy, you're very good at looking like you're doing okay. I think that's a talent that you have. Like, nobody would think for a minute that this breakup has upset you unless you actually told them. You know, right now, to your ex especially, you look happy, you look confident, like you're doing okay, like you're doing just fine. Um, I do want to say though, I don't think you're doing this on purpose. Like, this isn't for your ex's benefit. This isn't out of spite or anything. This is for your benefit. This is to help you move on. I think you're trying to convince yourself that you're fine and that you're okay and that you're moving on. It's sort of like fake it until you make it energy that I'm getting. But your ex is seeing your post right now, and to them, you look like you're doing really good and that everything is fine. And I feel like that's what's making them react so strongly. That's why they're so reactive right now. I think because there's a part of them, quite a big part of them, that wants you to be as upset or even more upset than they are about this breakup. Which I think is crazy to you because you aren't posting to get their attention. You're just posting, you know, you're just living your life. And I think you are starting to enjoy life again, even though I can definitely detect that there is more going on under the surface there. To your ex, you look like you're doing just fine, and yeah, I think it's triggering them, to be honest. Let's go back to them actually and see what else is going on here. So this is what your person isn't showing. This card looks at hidden feelings or thoughts they may be keeping to themselves. You have the Four of Swords. Okay, yeah. So I think this, yeah. So you look like you're doing fine. Okay, you're looking really good right now. Healthy, happy, whatever. And your ex is seeing your stories or your posts, and they're reacting sometimes. I don't think they react every time they feel this way, but I think sometimes the self control it just they just lose it and then they react. So um, I think they're trying to, where they're trying to reach out or just commenting. I don't think that's clear either. I do think that changes. It goes between angry or passive aggressive to heartbroken and sad. But yeah, I think this is them when they put their phone down, when they aren't necessarily looking at any of your socials, but they're just, I don't know, lying on their bed thinking about you. And yeah, I think where they're not looking at your posts, They're not thinking about your present, so then they're going back to the past. I think that's what this is. It's like they're exhausted from thinking about the relationship, about what could have been. But it's the energy it's coming through like a habit or a compulsion. I do think that, like, they think about you constantly, and it's like they wish they could stop because it's like that next step that I think you've already taken, that next step towards moving on is a lot harder for them than it is for you, or at least that's how it looks to them. We'll look at what you're not showing them in a minute, but yeah, you look like you're doing good. You look happy and like you're moving on, and your ex just feels stuck right now. I think, yeah, it's almost like they want to ask you, how did you do that? How did you move on so easily? How have you recovered so quick? Because they're over here still kind of hung up on you. And it's like they wish they could just stop thinking about you like for 5 minutes. I do feel like they're very emotional right now, and it's like they're not very good at controlling or expressing their emotions. I am getting an avoidant here. Let's see about you now and see what you're not showing your ex. This card looks at thoughts or feelings that you may be keeping to yourself in this connection. You have the moon. Okay, so you're getting yourself up in the morning, you're stopping yourself from dwelling or reminiscing or grabbing your phone and looking through their socials quickly before you shower. Nope, you get up and you shower, you control yourself, you're mentally disciplined. But this card is what others don't see, okay? I think the energy I'm getting is like the breakup feels unfinished to you, or like you don't understand how you got here, how things ended up this way. You're confused, I think. I think you do have moments where you think about your ex, where you replay conversations or arguments, the good times and the bad times. And I feel like the reason that you do this is because there are some questions that you have that you still don't have an answer to. You're wondering if things could have turned out differently. Like your energy, the breakup, I think feels like a blur to you. I think maybe it happened really fast. It's like, again, I'm getting at night and alone. This is when your guard drops. This is when you don't have to pretend that you're totally fine and that you've moved on. And I do think you're still hurting from the breakup, but I think that hurt comes from confusion. You haven't, or you can't figure out why this didn't work out or what went wrong. I feel like there are maybe some questions that only your ex can answer, and you're just sort of in limbo. Yeah, and I think that's what you're hiding from your ex right now, is that you're not okay. You're as heartbroken as they are. You're, I think you may also be confused about breaking up. It's like you're not even sure if you want to stay broken up. I don't know, that could be confirmation for someone, but let's keep going and get you another card. So we're moving into the part of the reading now where we look at what's changing between you two this week. Let's get you a card for that. You have the Knight of Pentacles. All right, so this is your ex, I think. I think this is your ex getting a stronger grip on themselves and their emotions. Okay, so I think it's possible that they have crossed a line recently, and it's just given them a bit of a wake up call, and they're like, what am I doing? I've got to get a grip. So they're not going to be reacting to your social media posts the same way this week. They're going to be more controlled. They still get up and they still think about you, but I'm going to be honest. I think they either want to smooth things over with you for a chance at a friendship, or they ultimately want to get you back. Because this energy is very, it's like, what do I have to do now? I've got to get a grip on myself and think about what I'm doing. They're not going to be messaging the first thing that pops into their heads anymore. They're not going to be impulsively commenting on your photos. They're going to stop themselves in that moment and ask themselves, what is this actually going to achieve? And what do I want to achieve by doing this? By getting into contact with them, like what do I want from this? They're thinking about it more seriously, I think. It's like they're thinking, I want to fix this. How am I going to do that? What have I been doing wrong? What should I do next time, instead of just typing or posting the first thing that they think of? Okay, interesting. Let's keep going and see where this is going. You have the 7 of Swords. Yeah, here's that control, that strategic thinking. So they're deciding this week that they're going to change their approach here. They're, they've been going about this the wrong way, and they know that because they haven't got the reaction or the result they wanted. So you're still on their mind. You're like in the back of their minds all the time, I think. But when they think of you now, they're still looking at your socials this week, but it's less impulsive and it's less reactive. They're going to be more careful about this. Again, it's not just whatever comes to mind. So, if recently you've caught them viewing your profile or being online on chat or something else recently, that's not how they're going about this anymore. That's not how they're doing it anymore. I'm definitely hearing incognito now. They're not going to be viewing your new posts a couple of seconds or minutes after you post. It will be a few hours now. So it's just a subtle change, like how you can watch TikToks and the creator doesn't actually get notified that you watched it specifically. They just get a view. That's what this energy is making me think of. They're being careful. They don't want to continue behaving the way they have been. They want to, like I said, get a grip on themselves and their emotions. They're going to be a lot more quiet, I think, and a lot less reactive this week. But let's yeah, that's it for this card. Let's keep going and get the next one. You have the King of Cups. Yeah, so this is control. All right, so they're laying low, being incognito. They're not reacting immediately anymore. They're being more careful. But like I said, I think you're on each other's algorithms. You're on each other's feed often. But I feel like when you pop up on their feed again, or maybe they just think about you, or maybe when things are a little quieter for them, they look you up, they're on your socials again. But again, they're being incognito. You won't be able to tell as easily or even at all if they've been on your feed, if they've looked at your profile, if they've, seen your picture or whatever. I think they're going to still want to message you or comment on one of your pictures, but they're going to be stopping themselves. They're going to be sitting on this and actually sitting with their feelings. They're not reacting. They're just asking themselves what they want here. What do they want to happen here? What do they want to gain by reaching out? Because I don't actually think they've had a game plan until now. I don't think they've been thinking much at all. They've just been all emotion lately. So the big moment here is them learning the self-control and sticking to it. Not because they don't care, but because they do. They care a lot. But because they need to actually ask themselves what the hell they want before they react again, before they bother you again. I do get the feeling that this person may be an avoidant, like, or maybe they didn't know what they wanted when you two were together either. Let's um let's get the next card. Maybe there's gonna be something else. You have the devil. Okay, so yeah, there is constant temptation for them because you're on each other's algorithms. You're popping up all the time. So they're being very controlled where your social media is concerned, or at least they aren't viewing your stuff 5 minutes after you've posted it. They're not obsessively going down your feed anymore, but all that energy, and that is a lot of energy, all of that attention, it has to go somewhere. I think they're just changing where it's going. So I think whereas before they were able to sort of get on with their day and sort of have a time where they thought about you, you're going to be on their mind a lot more because they're not allowing themselves that couple of hours before they go to bed of looking you up on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. They're not allowing themselves that anymore. And so their brain is like on overdrive because there's like a void where they used to think about you, where they used to channel that energy. They're thinking about you more because they don't have that time or that window to sort of channel that into. And I think looking at your current feed, looking at your socials, that kept them in the present. Whereas exercising this self control, not looking at you in the present it sends them back to the past. They think about your relationship, and the devil is of course sexual energy as well. So maybe that's where their mind is going most of the time. Just a little side note, but yeah, they're inventing a new problem for themselves by stopping themselves looking you up on socials. Now they can't stop thinking about you. Now they can't stop reminiscing because they're not allowing themselves to look at your socials and get any new material. So they're going back to what they know already. It's like their curiosity is eating them alive, honestly. It's like the more they try to control themselves, the harder it becomes. They're, yeah, they still haven't let go. I think you both still have a very strong hold on each other's thoughts. But for them, especially, it's like no matter what they do, their mind always goes back to you. Let's get, yeah, I think that's it for this one. Let's get your end of the week card now. So this card looks at where you stand in this connection by the end of the week. You have the Knight of Swords. Okay, so I think the change in their behavior is going to freak you out a bit. I do see you wondering why they've pulled back their energy. Do remember though, they are still looking at your feed. They're just being a bit smarter and a bit sneakier about it. But going back to them, like I said, they might want to smooth things over or ultimately get back together. So by the end of the week, I do see them getting in touch and you being like, again, very emotionally guarded. And also you are further ahead in the moving on journey than they are. But you're going to be thinking to yourself when they get back in touch, if we start talking again. What do I want from this? What needs to change if they come back and we get back together? Because there's this energy that you won't go back to them unless it's different, unless they've changed or I just heard are willing to change something that they do. A habit, maybe? They're kind of self-destructive in an area of their life, I think. And like that would need to change. But yeah, I think how mentally disciplined you are is really helping you sort out the confusion that we saw earlier. And you're like, you'd be okay talking to your ex again, just like you're okay with talking about them. Because unlike them, you're good at controlling yourself. So I think by the end of the week, if they do get in touch, you're ready. You are ready to ask those questions and you're ready to get answers. And I think by the end of the week, they'll be ready to get in contact with you. They'll have some form of like a game plan, I think, by the end of the week. Let's get your last card now. So, this card looks at the long term potential between you and your ex and where this connection could realistically lead if it continues or you get back together. You have the Three of Pentacles. Okay, so this to me, I think there is long term potential here. And I think you know that. And I think your ex knows that. But only if you two are able to communicate, which I'm guessing is kind of difficult with your ex struggling with repression of emotions and the lack of self control as well. And I do think that you've shut down. But yeah, if the two of you get to a point where you can sit down and discuss your relationship, what went wrong, what each of you bring to the table, where the issues were, taking responsibility where you both need to take it, instead of arguing or ignoring these issues and just carrying on the way you did before. Although, with that being said, I don't actually think you'd go back if things aren't different. That's more your ex, I think, who would ignore the issues and just carry on the way you did before. But if you could sit down and communicate, if you could do that, if you could, tell each other what you need from the other person, or, if you could talk about what really irritated you or hurt you, if they did something or if, you did something, if you two could work together, if you could drop your guard and they could exercise some self control, especially regarding their emotions, this relationship could have long term potential. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm not going to lie to you, but I don't feel like that's coming as a surprise to you. I think you already knew that. And I think your ex knows this as well, even if they don't want to admit it. All right, I think we're done. That's all that's coming through here. So I am going to leave it here. I hope this gave you something to think about and I hope that it helped you in some way. But for now, I will see you in my next reading. Take care.